get cooking, cooking with Amy. Let's get.
Hey guys, welcome back. I have a fun new recipe I think you and your family will love. It's one of the recipes in my brand new cookbook, and with my second cookbook I tried to make things even easier. People said all the time, I love your recipes because they are real recipes for real people, so I listened. So a lot of the recipes in this new book are just really quick fixes. Like you can come home from work and throw this soup together in minutes and your family will love it. I love soup, especially this time of year when it's starting to get chilly. I like to make a big batch on Sunday and then you can just eat it all week long. Like I say, this is one of those soups though that if you didn't really plan ahead, you can throw it together in minutes and get it on the table, and everybody loves it. We're starting out with some frozen meatballs, which are great to have on hand in your freezer because you can do so many different things with them. I also have a homemade meatball recipe in the cookbook, but if you don't have time, you know what, I get it. We all have crazy busy lives these days. So we're using 2 pounds of frozen meatballs, and you just need to pull those out of the freezer. Now over here in my big soup kettle, I have 8 cups of beef stock simmering. I like to use the boxed beef stock, but you know, if you have canned beef broth, that'll work too. So I'm just letting that kind of hang out on the stove and simmer. And then while their kids are doing their homework, you just dump the rest of the stuff in. 1 cup of thick and chunky salsa. If you make your own, that's great. The jar stuff's fantastic too. Hot, medium, mild, whatever your pleasure. I usually like to use the mild, and then you can serve extra hot sauce on the side for people who like, you know, can take the heat a little bit more. So in goes our salsa. Then we've got 1 can of rinsed and drained black beans, which are really, really good for you. My daughter Ireland happens to love beans, so if ever I can throw them in something, I do. Pinto beans would also work, kidney beans. It's all going to work. Then I've got 1 can of diced green chilies. You don't need to drain them. Everything can go in, the juice and all. Going to give it some really great Mexican flavor. Corn, I always have some corn in the freezer, or a can of corn. So we're going to add just some frozen corn. Don't need to cook it. When it hits the broth, it'll just cook itself. And now we've got some of those meatballs. And again, I make a big batch of homemade meatballs that I just keep in the freezer, and then you can take them out when you need them. But in a pinch, frozen meatballs work fantastic. So get our meatballs in, and you just simmer this for a few minutes until the meatballs get warm through, and it's just fantastic. The last thing you can do is sprinkle in some chopped fresh cilantro. You don't have to. If you don't like cilantro, you can certainly leave it out. You could do parsley instead. But this is one of my family's favorites. It's a nice light soup, but there's a lot going on, and you know, the little meatballs in there are kind of that extra added surprise, so just something a little fun. And then I always like to do some fun different things on top of my soup. In this case, I love serving this soup with maybe some shredded cheese on top. You know, things that you'd put on top of chili are fantastic. A little sour cream is wonderful. Maybe some chopped scallion or diced tomato, and then a little bit more, if you like cilantro, a little fresh cilantro. So there you go. It's my Mexican meatball soup, one of the recipes in my new cookbook, which will be available starting Monday at all festival food stores. And come see me during the holidays. I'm doing lots of different book signings throughout Northeast Wisconsin.